Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Job, the 32nd chapter. So these three men ceased to answer Job, because he was righteous in his own eyes. So basically his friends stopped giving him, they had nothing else left to say, because they were like, clearly he's not going to change his stance, right? He is holding fast to him what he believes, which is that he is innocent. Then was kindled the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barachel the Buzite of the kindred of Ram. Against Job was his wrath kindled, because he justified himself rather than God. Also against his three friends was his wrath kindled, because they had found no answer, and yet had condemned Job. So it's saying here, this other individual that was amongst them, which will let you know that he was younger than them, but it says he was angry. All right, let's read that in the NLT. He was also angry with Job's three friends, for they made God appear to be wrong by their inability to answer Job's arguments. Now Elihu had waited till Job had spoken, because they were elder than he. When Elihu saw, or Elihu, saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, then his wrath was kindled. So he basically listened to the whole thing, the responses back and forth. And when Job was done speaking and his friends didn't have an answer or any better responses, he got mad. And Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young, and ye are very old. Wherefore I was afraid, and durst not shew you mine opinion. Right? So out of like fear and respect, he didn't just butt in just to give his thoughts. I said, days should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. Right? So I'd rather give way to those of you who are older, who have acquired more wisdom to speak. That's what it means by days. You have more experience. NLT says, I thought those who are older should speak, for wisdom comes with age. But there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding. So he's saying here, but basically, like, I see that, it's not, and he's going to say that in the subsequent verses, it's not just by age that you're wise. There's a spirit that the Lord puts upon you, upon certain people to actually give them understanding. See, NIV, it says, but it is the spirit in a person, the breath of the Almighty, that gives them understanding. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. He's saying this once again in response to having heard this discourse between Job and his friends, and in his eyes, Job is speaking wrong, and his friends are not doing well enough in defending, speaking rightly on behalf of the Lord. That is from the perspective, at least from Elihu. So it says here, therefore I said, hearken to me, I also will shew mine opinion. Behold, I waited for your words. I gave ear to your reasons, whilst ye searched out what to say. So I listened, I was quiet. All right, while you were looking for how to respond. Yea, I attended unto you. And behold, there was none of you that convinced Job, or that answered his words. So I waited and waited for a response, and none of you could give any clear, good answers against what he was saying. Lest ye should say, we have found out wisdom, God thrusteth him down, not man. So basically, I don't even come up with the excuse, right, NLT, and don't tell me he's too wise for us. Only God can convince him. Now he hath not directed his words against me, neither will I answer him with your speeches. So it says here, if Job had been arguing with me, NLT, I would not answer with your kind of logic. NIV, but Job was not marshaled, or has not marshaled his words against me, and I will not answer him with your arguments. So even though he wasn't speaking directly to me, right, even if he was, I wouldn't give him the kind of answers you gave. They were amazed. They answered no more. They left off speaking. When I had waited, for they spake not, but stood still and answered no more. So he's saying here, after hearing Job, nobody had anything else to say. And I waited and nobody said anything. So I said, I will answer also my part. I also will shew mine opinion. For I am full of matter. This means I have a lot to say. The spirit within me constraineth me. Right? I mean, it urges him to speak. Behold, my belly is as wine which hath no vent. It is ready to burst like new bottles. And here he's saying, like, I can't forbear to speak. I have this information. I have to say something. And so he's saying, like, the matters within him that he wants to speak feels like wine. In this case, new wine, right? And new wine, when you ferment it, it does release gas. And usually the bottles they had back then were of what was it, goat skin or sheepskin? I think it might have been goat skin. Anyway, it was some skin, right? And so it's like a pouch, and if there's no vent or area to let out the gas, it'll stretch the fabric, right, of the bottle until it's too thin, and eventually it bursts. So he's saying here that's what he feels like that bottle that keeps expanding without a vent, and it's about to burst, right? It is ready to burst like new bottles. I will speak that I may be refreshed. I will open my lips and answer. Let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person, neither let me give flattering titles unto man. So I'm going to speak, but I'm not going to, you may be older, right? You may have had more stature and so on, like more status, a higher status, but I'm not going to play, as it says in the NLT, play favorites or flatter anyone, right? Or show partiality. For I know not to give flattering titles. In so doing, my maker would soon take me away, right? So basically, I know better than to be a respect of persons, lest the Lord judge me or him. And that brings us to the end of the book of Job, the 32nd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.